17th Springdale Airport Commission. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Micah Thomason,
Here.
Mike Goff, Jim Ulmer, Steve Smith,
Here.
Cameron McCarron,
Present.
Joel Gardner,
Here.
Greg Collier.
Here. All right, so minutes, has everyone had an opportunity to go through the minutes? I know it's been a bit. Any questions on the minutes? Otherwise, I'll ask for an approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Comments from the audience? Steve, you're on the agenda, so we'll call you up shortly. Actually, we're going to call you up right now. You want to come on up to the podium? Steve Patton's here. If you'll, I didn't get it in the packet in time, but there's a couple of sheets here laying out his proposed hangar, and he started the process. He's met with the city and gotten everything approved for his hangar. Does anyone have any questions for Steve, first of all, on the hangar or any of the layout here?
This is what we looked at before, right? The proposed area for building the hangars?
The area, yes. We
Okay.
haven't looked at these specific diagrams
Okay.
of this hangar. This is just west of our hangar.
Okay.
Next to it. And then the two, we talked about 2 months, was that 2 months ago?
It's
we
2
met?
months ago, I remember.
That was the two closest to Powell.
Okay.
So those two, and then Steve's, and then the city's.
C is the plot that he's
Correct.
looking at. Okay.
And then A and B is somebody else is developing those?
That's Billy Collins. That's who was here at the last meeting.
Yep, okay. It's been a minute.
And D is our hangar that we're finishing up.
Correct.
The Powell Street hangar, I think we're calling it now.
Yeah. D is the city's, and then detention pond, and then E, east of the pond. And then we'll have potential of moving south of that in the future.
So on this, it looks like that pond is really a small area. You're saying between D and E is where the detention pond?
I don't think that's to scale.
Yeah, it's pretty good size.
Yeah, the detention pond's really big out there. So I don't think what you're seeing here on the map is to scale.
Well, the detention pond is all the way to the east of all that.
Oh, all the way to the east. Okay, that's right. Okay, that's right. You are right, yeah.
This is Randy Ritchie, my engineer.
Yeah, I don't know if the detention pond's fully visible on the site plan that I did, because it's all the way to the east of all that whole row of hangars. You may be just seeing that ditch that's immediately north of all of them.
Oh, okay.
So based on your drawings, all you're proposing is C, is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay,
And it's just the building. The ramp and apron and all that is already gonna be there before we ever get there.
It's already finished.
Yeah, they're tying in to the apron there with us, with the cities.
I certainly think from a north-south perspective, that's filling that space even better than we've done with the 100 by 100, or that we're planning with the 100 by 100s. I guess my only thought would be, there's not, because the apron is already there, or I guess the apron, the pavement there is already there. We can't get it any closer to B. Is that a fire code thing to move it closer to B? Is that why the size was picked, or was it?
Okay, so the north-south width of ours, which is 120, we wanted it to be a little bit bigger, but we were told stay off of that south fence more, so it's 120. And the depth, I think, is dictated by the overall large scale that Garver has done.
Yeah,
Okay.
There's another 60 by 120, right to the back of me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
128, but
128.
Ours is 120. Well, okay, the city's hangar is 128, but it's too close to the proposed new access road. So we took 8 feet off of ours to move further away, which made everybody happier.
And you feel like the space between B and C is as minimal as we can make it between the future hangar, the 100 by 100? I just see that space there and want to make sure we're being efficient. We're not spacing them out too much.
Is B the city's hangar, or is B the one to our west?
It's west,
It's to the west?
west.
Didn't know there was.
Yeah,
I thought,
This has already been,
Dan Wilkins.
it's already
wanted to
gone through
build
Patsy and been
one to the
approved
west
at
and he
the
wanted to do it
dimensions that
60 by
we have
It
here.
looks like you got,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
I think you got to allow for drainage between B and
Those,
C.
There's
those
actually a-
building footprints are from the large scale that Garver did for the whole area.
Okay.
And we were told we had to hold to those. So.
There's also a
if-
bit of a higher level. And so we're going to, I think, Steve, you may remember from the meeting with Patsy, I think we're going to have to build up some there. I don't know if there's going to be a wall across that or what.
I don't know what happened.
You touched it.
Shame on me. All right, I won't do that this time.
There's,
Yeah, okay, so the space between C and B was designed into the overall large scale by people who aren't here.
I'm good with that. I
okay.
just want to make sure we weren't spacing them down too far if someday we're going to be shorting ourselves.
yeah, that fits into Garver's large-scale drawing.
Perfect.
That's how we arrived at that dimension for my hangar.
So Greg, what are they wanting, just us to approve that this is, so what we've already said we want to do, what our engineers have said we want to do, we're just approving that now we're going to do it. I can make the motion that we approve, I don't. I'll make the motion that we approve Steve Patton's hangar that's designed for us here.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
McCarron,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes, ma'am.
Collier,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Thomason,
Yes?
Goff.
All right. So you guys are approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Daniel from Summit.
Good afternoon. Good to see everybody again. Since we didn't meet last month, I'll go over numbers in the military and a couple other things. So you've got the numbers there. Again, just seeing that general fluctuation in sales. Literally no % change from Avgas, but still Avgas is doing great. And then Jet A, 6% is just, we'll see that over a year. So, not really worried about that. Jet sales so far this month are doing good. Yesterday, we sold 4,100 gallons of jet fuel. So that's 5-7% of the whole month, just in one day yesterday. So we'll kind of see what happens at the end of the month. Operations are great. We're staying busy. We're getting a lot of traffic in. We're selling a decent amount of fuel, but we're getting a lot more traffic in for guys that are, they might not need anything, but we just get them on through. So just a general increase in those operations, which we'll probably see in the operations count. But we're feeling it. I think El Chefe is getting a lot more business upstairs. I think they're getting a lot more business in Northwest Arkansas with catering and everything. So Mandy's staying very busy. So when the military was here, those guys were happy the whole time. Didn't miss a beat. The crew did a great job making sure that fueling operations, everything on the ground was taken care of. They're very satisfied, extremely satisfied with the lounge. That was their office for the week. And so they had full run of that, very comfortable. That in the conference room, upstairs, which that room is finished. So invite anybody to come by and take a look at that whenever you get some time. I'll talk about the hangar here in a second. But yeah, the military was good to go. A couple of those guys were telling me if it was up to them, they'd go ahead and choose Springdale just because it makes sense for them from their standpoint. But of course, it's a lot higher up that's actually going to be making that call. And from what I gather, they're going to be doing the last of their test runs in Fayetteville in November. So I'm hoping by the end of November, we'll know what their intentions are for Northwest Arkansas, and then we'll just hit the ground running if it's us, and I really hope it is. Talking to Cameron yesterday, we just can't find any downsides. I mean, there's some things that I'm paving a ramp and rehabilitating that building, but other than that, they're gonna have to build wherever they go. And so the crew were kind of thinking about that while they were with us, and from an operational standpoint, they were thinking Springdale makes most sense. We'll see what they say whenever they get done with everything. My lounges over in Hangar 11 are coming along. Got the flooring done, walls are done, ceilings are done. Right now, I'm about to start painting trim. Trim's gonna go in. It'll be done by the end of next week. Then we're gonna start getting our furnishings and doors put in. And then there's a utility room. We'll probably do the utility room last. We'll get the lounges operational. But yeah, it's not gonna be too much longer. I don't wanna give a time frame. With everything going on, I'm only able to get so much done over there at a time. That's all the main stuff. I do have one more thing that I wanted to ask you guys about. Mark and I were talking about the other day. We wanted to see what y'all thought about Summit installing an awning at the terminal that goes from the ramp side door to the ramp, not all the way to the ramp, but to provide some sort of shade, weather protection for people who want to wait out there, passengers coming in while it's raining, get under cover quicker. It would look nice. It'd be a fabric, either arch or triangle. But wanted to bounce that idea off you guys and just get some feedback if you'd be interested in playing with that. If not, let me know. Just kind of wanted to see what you thought.
I think it's a good idea. I'm sorry. My only thought on that is, as far as keeping it secured, that's a concern, obviously, if it were to come loose, fly off, hit the building, do damage to the building. I don't know
Right.
how that would be secured to the ground.
Yeah, we were thinking about that too, and that's really our biggest concern with the thing, is you get some jet blast or prop wash or something come by and then, throw it off to the side. So it would be a discussion with the companies, whoever builds it, and tell them, they're gonna see what the operations that we're doing. Like, this is what we're dealing with. This thing's gotta stay here. It can't go anywhere. Whatever they use for the framework has gotta be solid. It can't be just that normal awning framework. It's gotta be a little bit more robust. But yeah, taking that into consideration.
You're talking about the exit to the north that is through what was the old lounge?
No, to the east, directly onto the main ramp. The double doors?
The main one, okay. I thought you said side door, I'm sorry.
No, ramp door. I guess they're all ramp doors, but the main. But take time, think about it. This is something that we.
How wide is that?
Well, the awning would be about 12 foot wide. The sidewalk itself is 17, maybe. So where you walk out that door and you've got a flat face, but then the building has an angle that comes back. We wouldn't be able to get the arch or the awning to match up to that angle coming around the side, which narrows the actual width of the overall arch or awning. So it takes to 12 foot wide. And then there's just a little bit of concrete either side of that.
Would that be attached to the building, are you thinking, or separate from that?
Attached to the building. Yep. So concrete, anchored in the concrete, and then attached to the building. And we're gonna have, I assume, underneath that sheet metal are I-beams holding up the balcony.
I wonder if someone at the school district has they all have these walkways, right, that are covered. They typically do I'm assuming it's probably a steel structure over top that's like a corrugated steel over those. But those are pretty common in schools where kids are standing outside waiting for rides. I wonder if they've ever done fabric type material or anything that would stand that kind of wind. Because I know jet wash, obviously, but also we get some pretty crazy winds. And that'd be out there really exposed to all of that. Anything coming from the west, from the east would be really right up in it.
Mm-hmm.
In the north, yeah.
Yeah, I would need to, I've gotten a couple quotes, but I would need to call the companies and ask them. I'm sure there's a wind rating for the fabric. They would know that. And I could take that because jet blast, prop wash. It's not 100 miles an hour, but it's a lot of wind at one time. But I could discuss it with them.
I would ask for some type of rendering, a couple of different options for us to take a look at.
Yeah.
With, as you just said, with the wind ratings, and we can base a decision off of something like that.
Sure.
More so than,
Okay, yeah, I'll work on that over the next month, and I'll send it out to you individually so you can think about it, and pick it up next month if you want to keep on talking about it.
good.
Since James and Garver are both not here, what did the military say about the hangar that the city has, or the warehouse that the city has purchased? Last time there was some discussion about raising it up. Is that still necessary? Do you know anything about any of this?
I don't think that, yes, I do think it's going to have to be raised, but it doesn't sound like that's going to be a problem. They were very happy with, when they went in to tour the warehouse itself, the openness of it, the structurally sound, the height inside, two open buildings, basically side by side. They were very happy with what they saw, as well as everybody else that was there too from the city.
I wasn't in that meeting. I heard it was a good meeting, though. Garver was able to do some real-time engineering for them and kind of work around some issues. But, they seem pretty satisfied. Yeah, other than maybe the door height issue that they're working through, I don't think they had any other pressing matters that really pertain to that.
What about striping? Has that been done?
Strapping's all been done. It looks great. And it was very useful for that week. The city, James, Alan, Laura, when she was on vacation most of the time, but she was there a couple of days, did a great job. Everything pretty much went off without a hitch. Had a couple people coming across the ramp, but that only happened once for each of them, and the rest of the week was fine. Everybody was pretty accommodating to what was going on, and a few phone calls, a couple complaints, but really the majority of people who were calling were just curious as to what was happening. We had a little bit more foot traffic in that week, just because they could hear what was happening, and somebody from the trailer park just down the road piqued their interest, and they came up. They had lunch. They wouldn't have otherwise done that. So, yeah, good stuff overall. 2% bad, 98% good.
Noise complaints?
There was a few just going to my CSRs, and I talked to James about, if we get those phone calls, what do we need to do? He said just send them to the city, and we had a contact here, somebody up here, and they let him know what was happening. So it was pretty easy to explain. That
Any
might
other
be,
questions from Daniel? Thank you.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Yep.
All right, Ernest couldn't make it. Laura, if everyone doesn't know, Laura's no longer with the city, with the airport. We have some resumes, and he's interviewing, and he's optimistic of what he has so far from a resume standpoint. So,
Who's
James. And then James is stuck in Texas. Supposed to been back yesterday and had a vehicle issue that was repaired, got on the road, had a flat tire, couldn't get it repaired, so he's on his way back today. Garver, so let me just go over a few things with you in regards to Garver, and visited with Greg some yesterday. So first of all, in regard to operations, and I think we have discussed this, I'm not sure as a commission, but we have gone from a regional airport to a national airport, which ultimately means from a funding standpoint, we're going to go from around $300,000 a year potential funding to more than double that a year. And a lot of that is based on operations at the airport. So that's a good thing. That will probably start, not set yet, but it sounds like that's going to start in '25. So it'll, as a matter of fact, Greg is talking to Kathy from FAA and trying to get next year's $300,000 increased already. So that's in the works.
Because we're busier, there's more wear and tear on things, but are we able to still maintain with our $300,000 income? And that 300,000 can be put aside for these 90-10 grants and these things, so we're not going to the city, where we go every 3 or 4 years and ask them for $100,000 to do a project of some sort. Is this something we can maintain, or is this gonna get swallowed up, or does it have to be used, or you don't get it, or do you know?
Well, it'll be just like it is now. I mean, you got to use it or lose it from year to year, but I'm not quite sure the 100,000 every 3 years. We don't go to the city very often. I'm not sure when the last
I
time we
just
went.
think of about every third year, I feel like I go to city council people and talk to them about a project we're working on, whether it's a deal or what. So this is the federal funding that we use year after year. Yeah.
We'll just lock in at a lot higher rate instead of the 300,000, be closer to 700,000. So, National Guard, we covered that. Grooving has all been approved. Unfortunately, the process of getting that approved went slower than what Garver anticipated, as far as the federal grant getting approved. And so we were hoping to have everything done by the end of this month. That's not going to happen. But what we're planning on doing, so initially we were planning on installing the grooves, sealing everything, painting everything, and getting it all done together. We're going to do that in a two-part process now. We're going to do the grooving, and then in the spring, we'll come back and seal and paint and coat everything then. So we'll at least have the grooving done ahead of time from the winter weather. So that's a plus. Our hangar, as far as the city hangar goes, it's probably 95% complete. The doors are here, they'll be installed. They're being installed now. We're probably looking at another week by the time they get completely installed and ready to go. We're still working. The city had a little trouble with the water department and getting everything figured out on how to bring the water across. We were going to go underground and bore under the road, and apparently that is not going to happen. They're going to have to cut the road and go through the road and then repave the road. So taking a little more time. But according to them, we'll be up and running in 60 days. So we're very close. If you've not been by that hangar, swing by and take a look. It looks nice, and that whole row is really going to be awesome to have that included. And then, of course, the service road to the south of that will be redone. So that whole southwest corner is going to look totally different here in a couple of years, or a year probably. Tower, everything's on schedule for the tower. Remember, we're just kind of waiting. We put that off on the back burner till the winter, because I can do that in the wintertime and not have a concern, so that's still on schedule. Detention pond, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Everything's good with it. There'll be, before we open our hangar, the city will have to get involved. They'll have to pump water into that, make sure it holds water, drains water the way it's supposed to, but there's no concern for that. It just has to be certified before we can open the hangar. I think that's everything that he and I had gone over. You guys have any questions for Garver that I can answer?
Mine's more on the operational side, Daniel. As we continue to grow and develop, you've got crew that are out there stomping all over the place. How are you guys set for crew, and how are you guys set for the growth and development that we're seeing with more hangars coming in, more units coming in, that type of stuff?
Yeah, that's been an active discussion for us over the last couple of months. Just because we've got more activity, we've actually moved one of our part-time employees to full-time and added another. I think she's technically full-time in a CSR. So we've already had to do that. And the discussions we're having now that we've been able to do this, because we've got so much more activity in the morning. What is it going to look like next year? So historically, we tend to be busier in the spring. Once winter's kind of wrapped up, people are moving again. And so what we're thinking about now is April, May, we're going to look at our needs and we're going to look at our historical data, when the increases tend to happen and what percentages those increases are, and then weigh that against shelling out for another income, another employee. Does it make sense? Do I need to bring in my second part-time on full-time? Would they want to? So we're actively thinking about it. I don't have to hire 2 or 3 extra people. I might have to hire 1. I have had to increase my worked hours every week to accommodate just the operations that we're seeing right now. But like I said, as we go into the springtime, we'll have a lot better idea of what we'll be able to do. I know that even when we're short-staffed, we can take care of everything. We're good to go. I just don't like to be short-staffed.
Well, I just want to make sure that our drive for growth as a commission in the city doesn't cause a loss of customer quality, customer service. And I don't know how our financial relationship is between the FBO and the airport itself, but if it's something that we actually need to be taking a look at, I think I would rather take a look at it early as opposed to after we get into a point to where he's becoming broke because he's put too many people out there because we're growing the business way too fast, if you get my drift on that. I think we should be both growing at the same speed.
Well, of course, the revenue that they generate from the growth is going to help offset that to pay for extra staff too.
Right. Now, I think financially, our relationship is very nice for growth for the foreseeable future. And if we needed to say anything, we would, because nobody needs to be in deficit on manpower. I would say maybe from a city standpoint, consider maybe more man hours in the FBO. Because we're getting so much more traffic, trash cans are being used more, bathrooms are being used more. And in the summer, Alan's got the guys out mowing. They've just got to mow and weed eat. And that's something to kind of take a look at over time. But if that means that the FBO is a little bit more clean and tidy as we get more activity, I think that would be the most beneficial thing for us. And Alan's real good about, if I need something, he sends the guy straight up and they get on it. But I also have reservations. I don't want to just call him up when he's in the middle of a project.
Well, we're going to have a new airport manager soon. That's a great opportunity to visit with the new airport manager and maybe get a new routine
Sure.
set.
Yeah.
Daniel, before you go, I was going to ask earlier and I forgot, are we still catering to those Razorback fans when they come in for the games?
Yes. Not last week, week before. That was a great weekend. We did good on sales. Operations were great. It was a late game, so I had a third person come in at the end of the shift. We closed at 7. Game started at 6:30, so we had somebody there until the end of the game. Pilots were comfortable. That lounge upstairs is just nothing but compliments. So that's really, really good. And then, of course, we won, so we were there a little bit longer than normal, so everybody who flew in could have a good time, and they did. They did great. And that's what we're planning for this weekend. Another big game this weekend. One of my employees is already scheduled to stay late for that. As soon as we're closed, she's on the clock and she's gonna be taking care of it. My only issue there is that she's an LSU fan. Other than that, no.
Get rid of her.
I think we're gonna be just fine. And then I'm getting great feedback from those passengers, those pilots, and the crew that's working in the evening. So if we need to make any adjustments or anything like that, we're gonna go ahead and get that done.
And what about transportation from here to there? Are we shuttling or are we getting extra rental cars?
The passengers are pretty good about setting up their own rental cars. Actually, a lot of them already have vehicles at the airport that they go ahead and use, or they'll set up with a shuttle service. I don't ever do a shuttle service. I think I did the first year, and it was kind of a wash. So if somebody needs something, we'll go out of our way and we'll set it up for them, but there's really not much need to be proactive on that point because you just kind of sit around with assets, not doing anything. they work with Enterprise and Hertz directly, so they pretty much, we get the cars in, we hand them out, and they're good to go. We got two crew cars that they can use if they want to use the crew cars. And then, honestly, the best thing is Uber. Uber's
I was
really
just
good.
thinking, I'm old school. Uber's the way to go anymore, more so probably than a rental car. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that takes care of a lot of that.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good presence in Northwest Arkansas with drivers, and, I mean, somebody calls an Uber and 10 minutes later, they're on the road. That happened this morning, we didn't have any crew cars, so they just did that, on their app, and they were set. So I think people are fine, just making sure that we've got, good refreshments, snacks, and things like that for the crews who are sticking around, and then the passengers are gonna go do their own thing. Yeah.
So as far as fuel cells, football games affect Jet A?
Yeah, slightly. What we tend to see for incoming traffic for football games is regional. People out of Little Rock, Conway, Jonesboro, and so they're not coming from very far. So they get some courtesy fuel, like 50, 100 gallons, something like that. Or if it's a small plane, they get 10 gallons or top it off, and that more than makes up for the manpower, the hours that are going into taking care of them. So, I'm happy with it. I'd love more people to come out of Fayetteville.
On average, how many extra folks are we getting on a game day?
It really depends on the game. 2 weeks ago, I think we had all three lines were filled with aircraft, jets, King Airs, single engines. So I fully expect that this weekend again.
So how many's in a line?
We can fit 3 jets in one line. So that's 9 turbine aircraft right there. And then we can use the north side of the ramp as well if we need to, which is usually Mark if he's going to get somebody and bring him in. But it really depends on the game. It's who we're playing and how big of a game they really expect it to be. With us winning that last one, that last big one, I really expect this one to be pretty busy for us.
Would it be worth Manny making some tacos and taking over there to spread the word to get other folks to come here instead
Down to
of?
Fayetteville? Maybe. I thought about printing off a shirt that says it's cheaper to fly into Springdale and just walking around the FBO over there.
Here or there?
I'll walk down into Fayetteville. I'll walk through the terminal and hand out coupons and discount fuel and stuff like that. Yeah, there's so many benefits to Springdale. And a lot of people, they just don't realize how much easier it is to come into Springdale because they can get down to the stadium just about as quick as going from Fayetteville through the traffic versus a lot less traffic getting down there. You're not walking 100 yards to your aircraft. We're not going to move your aircraft 100 yards away. You're going to get fueled on time. I say these are issues that I know that Fayetteville works with just because they're so busy. There's just a lot of benefits.
We need to get some of that traffic.
I know. It's convincing them. That's the hard part. I'm not good at selling things. I'm not a good salesman at all.
Convincing the pilots, right?
Correct.
You're going to convince your passengers because they're paying for it. So,
But the pilot, well, yeah, you're right, both
Yeah.
ways, I think.
Are catering to
No.
pilots with the new lounge and
Right.
make sure
Now-
they can sit and watch the game and all those things there.
if we could get, if I could show the pilots the benefits, the pilots can probably convince the passengers. So if I convince the pilots, I can convince the passengers. The 135 operators, it might be a little bit more difficult to get them because they're just paying a charter amount and they just want to go to Fayetteville, and the charter operation might not care or know what the difference is. The 91 operators, that's who we're really getting, the people who own their jets and have their own pilot. They're the ones who've been doing it long enough, they know the benefits of coming to Springdale. So I don't remember last time we got a charter operation coming in for a game. It's always 91 operators, personal.
We talked several years ago about putting an ad in the football program, but I think we decided they weren't our target audience. We really wanted to get the pilots, so.
Yeah, I'm working with a gentleman who owns an app called FBO Props, and it's like it's something that pilots can use whenever they're getting ready to fly somewhere to check out basically the region. You need to go to Northwest Arkansas, pull up the app, see what FBOs are out there, and take a look at what they've got to offer. But what I'm trying to do is to see if he can figure out a way for me to do like geo-targeting on certain areas of the United States for advertising. So if somebody's got the app and they live down in Louisiana, they're thinking about flying up, that pilot gets a notification on his FBO Props app that, hey, Springdale's got these discounts. So any home game, if I target the away games home for those pilots, that could draw some, that might be worth the effort of doing all that. It's hard to do that because the app's not real big yet. So it's slow growth, but once it's there, we'll be able to kind of really focus in on where people are flying from. And that could probably bring in a little bit more traffic.
How about Dallas area? Seems like we would get quite a few folks from there. I wonder if we could market there.
Yeah. I'd have to look at who's coming out of Dallas. And then once I know who's coming out, I think we could direct some advertising directly to them, like send them postcards, send them,
Can't you, game day, can't you research that and see who's flying out of there to Northwest Arkansas?
Yep, I can look at that. I can look historically. I think I can look at, in the past, where tail numbers have come from, where they're based out of, how many times they've been to the airport. If they come all the time, they're not my target audience. If they come once and it's always during a game, that's the one to aim for.
And I'm not talking about just here, I'm talking about,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would think this would be a great year to figure out who flies out of Austin every single ball game away and get them a postcard and say, hey, you don't already have a habit. You don't already have a place you've flown to for the last 10 years when you come into Northwest Arkansas. Think of us.
Yeah.
Same with OU fans. I mean,
Yeah.
It's going to be a new pattern for them. They're not used to always flying into Fayetteville, always seeing the same face.
Right.
Habit.
Right. And I could call them up, ask them what it is about Fayetteville and if they know about Springdale. And then if I could match any sort of discount that they're getting at Fayetteville, say, hey, I'll do that too. Plus I've got this lounge.
Start that habit.
Yeah. I'd be happy to work with them.
It's your business. You know this stuff better than we do, but that's
Great
my
ideas.
thoughts.
I love a good sounding board. Yeah. I can let you know next month kind of how some of this is going.
Thanks, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Any old business?
I had a comment real quick. You got me thinking a little bit on growth and operations. So I was sitting here doing some math, and if you forecast out our fuel sales by average, that historical average, we should end up around 5.5% better this year than what we did back in 2022. So it's kind of a cool thing. And operations, if you forecast that out based on the average over the historical data, 7% up compared to 2023, which was our record. So if we continue the trend that we've seen, we'll see 7% up in operations and possibly 5.5% up in fuel sales by the end of the year.
Thanks, Cameron.
Sorry, I'm very analytical.
I like it. Comments from commissioners? Yes, sir.
Sorry, wrong button. There was a comment made a month ago about hangar projects and possibly getting some smaller project on the books for when we have a downtime. And I noticed that we have plans for several box hangars still coming. How are we going to address T-hangars and the list of people that we have that are waiting on T-hangars? And that'll certainly help drive avgas sales and smaller airplane sales and business at the airport.
So there's been discussions over, I don't know, what, a year or two now, probably, putting T-hangars down on the south of the fuel farm along that run there. Other than that, I don't know of any T-hangars that we've talked about.
We can ask Garver to bring that next week, or next month, excuse me, because we've actually looked at that, and he had pricing for what it would cost to do each of those individual projects. It'd be good to see that. It was pretty.
I think he actually has a diagram drawn up for those, too.
Yes, he does. Yeah, so we saw it 4 or 5 months ago, so he just hadn't seen it yet. So that may give you an idea on what that would cost. And I think the box hangers that are planned aren't us. I mean, I know they're not us. Those are, someone else came previous meeting or whatever, so we're not actually doing those. But, that was our plan probably 18 months ago. We asked Garver, like, we want to grow. We're seeing that the east side is kind of hit its limit. There's some of that, there's just not enough property over there for us to continue going to the north. So we know our growth is going to be around this Powell Street hangar and this area. So we moved the detention pond, and we've kind of found, he's tried to figure out the puzzle of how we build that, and then he put the projects that he had planned in there with dollar amounts to do each one of them. We had another one that was on the north side of the terminal that we were trying to get water from the HUD homes that are there. There's some room kind of between those hangars, and I think that one was the least expensive, easiest financially, but maybe had the least bang for the buck of what we were going to actually be able to house as far as planes. So there's a plan with that that'd be really good. At Garver, we asked them to do that for us so that we kind of have some general idea. I wanted a plan of, so when someone comes to us and says, "I'm gonna put a hangar here," how disruptive is that to what we see future growth happening? If we keep filling all these spots with big hangars and we don't ever have spots for T hangars. So he came up with a way for us to see how he kind of has that planned. It involves a lot of roads, a lot of new connections for those things that we don't necessarily have funded yet, but kind of has a plan. So we can ask Greg to bring that to the next one, and that'll answer a lot of that.
I just made a note for that. And really thinking out down the road here, I hate to put the cart before the horse, but if we get that, when we get that ATCO building set for whoever takes that, then we're going to close off Airport Avenue there. And so that's going to have potential of more hangars in that area too, I would think. So we have nothing that we've talked about, but there's potential there.
Beth, do we have the first quarters, maybe last quarter 23 and first quarter 24, agendas and packets archived somewhere that you could send Mike? Because Mike, those should be in there, all of those plans. I can't remember if it was last quarter 23 or first quarter 24.
I'm just going to ask him to present it next month.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else from commissioners? Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned.